I'm watching his car pull into the driveway in my rearview mirror, and I've never been more terrified in my life. 10 minutes ago, I was the perfect girlfriend. Now I'm a woman who just found a secret room filled with photos of me sleeping, photos I never knew he took. My hands are shaking so hard I can't even start the car. I should have listened to the first red flag. The smell of copper and old dust is stained into my skin. I can't wash it off. No matter how much soap I use, the scent of that room follows me. I am sitting in my car now, 3 blocks away from his house, hands shaking so hard I can barely grip the steering wheel. My heart isn't just racing, it's slamming against my ribs like a trapped animal. I found it. The thing he said didn't exist. 10 minutes ago, I was standing in front of that heavy oak door at the end of the hallway, the one without a handle. The one he told me was just structural dead space. I had the key in my hand, a cold, heavy piece of iron I found hidden inside the lining of his old gym bag. My internal monologue was screaming, "Don't do it. Turn around. Go back to the kitchen. Finish making the pasta. Pretend you never found it." But my hand didn't listen. My palms were sweaty, making the key slippery. I felt like I was vibrating. When the key turned, the sound was deafening. Clack! A heavy, mechanical sound that echoed through the empty house. I pushed. The door didn't creak. It swung open smoothly, like it was well-oiled, like it was used every single day. The air that hit my face was freezing. It didn't feel like a home anymore. It felt like a meat locker. I stepped inside, my breath hitching in my throat. I saw the walls. I saw the photos. I saw the things he had collected, things that belonged to me, things I thought I had lost months ago. My favorite hair tie, a broken earring, a Polaroid of me sleeping that I never knew he took. But it wasn't just me. There were others. My stomach did a violent flip. I felt the bile rising. I thought I knew Mark. I thought we were building a life together. For 2 years, I shared a bed with a man who kept a museum of my private moments behind a locked door. My phone vibrated in my pocket. A text from him. "Hey, babe. Leaving work now. Can't wait to see you. Love you." I dropped the key. It hit the floor with a dull thud. I didn't pick it up. I just ran. I ran past the beautiful photos of us in the hallway, past the flowers he bought me yesterday, and out into the cold night air. How did I get here? How did I miss this? I'm a smart woman. I'm careful. But as I sit here in the dark, watching his car pull into the driveway in my rearview mirror, I realize that the secret room wasn't built in a day. It was built brick by brick, lie by lie, while I stood by and watched, convinced that I was just being sensitive. I need to breathe. I need to remember how this started, because before the room, before the lock, and before the terror, there was just a boy who seemed too good to be true. 2 years ago, Mark didn't feel like a threat. He felt like an escape. I met him at a crowded art gallery. I was clumsy, spilling my wine on my favorite white dress. Before I could even gasp, he was there. He didn't just offer a napkin. He took off his own expensive blazer and draped it over my shoulders. "Don't worry," he whispered, his voice like velvet. "It looks better on you anyway." He was charming. He was attentive. He was everything my ex-boyfriend wasn't. Within 3 weeks, he knew my favorite childhood book, the name of the dog I lost when I was 10, and exactly how I liked my steak. It felt like he was studying me. At the time, I thought it was romantic. I thought, finally, someone who actually sees me. He moved fast, very fast. "Why wait?" he'd say, tucking a strand of hair behind my ear. "When you know, you know." Within 4 months, he was asking me to move into his house. It was a beautiful old Victorian place, lots of character, lots of dark wood, and, of course, that one hallway that always felt a little colder than the rest of the house. I remember the day I moved in. I was carrying a box of books past that door. I stopped, noticing there was no handle, just a small silver keyhole. "What's in here?" I asked, tilting my head. Mark was behind me in an instant. He didn't touch me, but he stood so close I could feel the heat radiating off his chest. "Just storage, babe. Old pipes, some structural supports. The previous owners were weird about it. It's basically dead space." He steered me toward the kitchen by my waist. He bought me a brand new espresso machine that morning. He talked about our future, about vacations in Italy, about the kids we might have. He drowned out my curiosity with a flood of affection. But looking back, the first micro-red flag was already there. It was the way he looked at my things. One evening, I couldn't find my diary. I'm a writer. That book is my brain. I searched everywhere. I was frantic, crying on the floor of the living room. Mark sat beside me, stroking my back. "Maybe you left it at the cafe, Sarah. You've been so forgetful lately. Are you sure you're feeling okay?" He sounded so worried, so caring. He stayed up with me until 2 a.m. helping me look for it, even though he had a big meeting the next day. I never found that diary. I eventually gave up. I told myself I was just stressed. I didn't see the way his eyes flickered toward that handleless door whenever I mentioned it. I didn't notice that my favorite silk scarf went missing a week later, or the spare key to my car. Everything was perfect. On the surface, we were the couple everyone envied, but underneath, the foundation was shifting. The secret room wasn't just a physical space, it was a wall he was building between my reality and his secrets, and I was helping him lay the bricks because I was too afraid to admit that the man I loved might be a stranger. As the months crawled by, the fairy tale started to feel heavy. It wasn't a sudden explosion, it was a slow, creeping rot. Mark was still the man who brought me flowers, but the flowers started to feel like apologies for things he hadn't even done yet. I started noticing 3 things, 3 small things that I tucked away in the back of my mind, like sharp glass in a drawer. The first flag was the maintenance check. Once a month, Mark would tell me I needed to stay out of the house for 4 hours. "The Historical Society is sending a specialist to check the foundation," he'd say. Or, "The termite spray is toxic, Sarah. I don't want you breathing it in." I'd go to a movie or sit in a coffee shop, feeling lucky that I had a man who cared so much about my health and our home. But one day, I came back early because the movie was sold out. I walked in quietly. The house was silent, but I heard a sound from the end of the hallway. Thump, drag, thump, like someone moving heavy furniture. When Mark saw me, he didn't smile. He looked terrified. Then, in a split second, that terror turned into a cold, hard mask. "I told you it wasn't safe, Sarah," he said, his voice low and dangerous. "Why can't you ever just listen?" He didn't ask how my day was. He just watched me walk to the bedroom, his eyes following me like a hawk. The second flag was the mirroring. I noticed that Mark started repeating my own private thoughts back to me. One night, I was thinking about calling my mom. We'd had a fight, and I hadn't told Mark about it yet. I was sitting on the porch, just thinking. Mark walked out, handed me a glass of wine, and said, "You know, sometimes moms just don't understand, but you should probably call her anyway." I froze. My skin went cold. How did he know? I hadn't said a word. "I just know you, babe," he'd laugh when I asked. "I'm in your head." It didn't feel romantic anymore. It felt like I was being watched. The third flag was the most subtle, but the most chilling, the trash. I'm the one who usually does the chores, but Mark was obsessive about the garbage. He never let me take the bags to the curb. "It's too heavy for you," he'd insist. But one morning, the bag ripped. I reached down to pick up the spilled contents. Among the coffee grounds and eggshells, I saw something bright. It was a shredded photo. I pieced two bits together. It was a picture of me at the grocery store from 2 days ago. I wasn't posing. I was looking at apples, looking tired, looking completely unaware that someone was standing 10 feet away taking my picture. My heart started that familiar, frantic drumming. He was following me? No, that's crazy. Maybe he just wanted a candid shot? I shoved the paper back into the bag. My hands were shaking. I looked up and saw Mark watching me from the kitchen window. He wasn't moving. He was just standing there, a silhouette against the light, watching me dig through the remains of our life. The following weeks felt like walking through a thick, gray fog. I knew something was wrong. My gut was screaming at me, a physical, gnawing ache in the pit of my stomach. But every time I tried to point at the truth, Mark made sure I couldn't find it. "Mark, why were you taking pictures of me at the store?" I asked one night. My voice was small, trembling. He stopped eating his dinner and looked at me with pure, heartbreaking pity. "Sarah, we talked about this. I wasn't even at the store on Tuesday. I was in back-to-back meetings. Are you having those episodes again?" Episodes. That was his new favorite word. Whenever I found a discrepancy, a missing house key, a strange smell coming from the hallway, his car engine being warm when he said he'd been home for hours, it was always my episodes. "I saw the photo in the trash, Mark. I held it." He sighed, a long, weary sound. He walked around the table and knelt beside my chair, taking my cold hands in his. "Honey, I'm getting worried. You've been so stressed. You're imagining things that aren't there. Maybe it's the lack of sleep. I think you should stay home more. Rest. Let me take care of everything." He was so gentle. His eyes were so full of concern that I actually started to hate myself. How could I be so ungrateful, I thought. He's a saint for putting up with my paranoia. But the accidents kept happening. I'd leave my car keys on the counter. 10 minutes later, they were gone. I'd find them an hour later in the fridge. "See," Mark would chuckle, kissing my forehead, "you're losing your grip, babe. Good thing you have me to keep track of you." I stopped trusting my own eyes. I stopped trusting my own memory. The silence in the house became a weapon. When he left for work, I would sit on the sofa staring at that handleless door at the end of the hall. It felt like it was breathing. It felt like it was watching me. I began to feel like a ghost in my own life. I stopped calling my friends because I didn't know what was real enough to tell them. I didn't want them to think I was crazy too. Mark had successfully isolated me in a prison made of care and concern. One afternoon, I caught a glimpse of myself in the hallway mirror. I looked haggard. My hair was dull, my skin was pale, and my eyes were wide with a permanent low-level terror. I looked like a victim. "I am not crazy," I whispered to my reflection. My breath fogged the glass. "I am not crazy. The door is real. The photos were real. The missing diary is real." That was the day I stopped listening to his voice and started listening to the silence. I waited for him to leave. I waited for him to forget. And finally, he did. He left his gym bag by the door. My heart began to hammer against my ribs, that familiar, sickening thud. I reached for the bag. My fingers brushed against the lining. Clink. The metal was freezing against my skin. I pulled the iron key from the lining of his bag and didn't think. I just ran to the door. You already know what I saw inside. The photos, the diary, the shrine to a version of me he was slowly killing. But I didn't have time to process it, because the front door opened. The heavy thud of Mark's boots on the hardwood made the floorboards vibrate. I froze. I was standing in the middle of his secret, the evidence of his obsession surrounding me like a cage. My heart wasn't just racing anymore. It felt like it had stopped entirely. "Sarah?"
His voice came from the hallway. It wasn't the sweet, caring voice he used in front of my friends. It was flat, empty. I heard his footsteps getting closer. Thump, thump, thump. I tried to move, but my legs were lead. I looked at the door, but it was too late. Mark stood in the doorway. He didn't look surprised. He didn't look guilty. He just looked disappointed, like a parent catching a child doing something they'd been warned 1,000 times not to do. "I told you it was just dead space, Sarah," he said softly. He stepped into the room, closing the door behind him. The click of the latch sounded like a gunshot. "I followed you," I whispered. My voice was a ghost of itself. I pointed to the wall, to the photo of me at the grocery store. "You took my diary. You've been watching me, even in this house." He laughed, a short, dry sound. "Watching you. I was protecting you. Look at you. You're a mess. You can't even keep track of your keys. Who else is going to care for you like this? Who else is going to keep every piece of you safe?" He stepped closer. I backed away until my spine hit the cold brick wall. He reached out, his hand hovering near my face, and for a second I thought he was going to hit me. Instead, he gently tucked a strand of hair behind my ear. His touch made my skin crawl. "You shouldn't have come in here," he whispered, his eyes dark and dilated. "Now everything is ruined. Now I have to start over." "Start over?" I choked out. "Mark, you're sick. I'm leaving. I'm walking out that door, and I'm never coming back." He tilted his head, a terrifyingly calm smile spreading across his face. "With what keys, Sarah? In what car? You don't even know where your shoes are. You're unstable, remember? Everyone thinks so. If you leave, where will you go? Who will believe the girl who's been having episodes for months?" In that moment, the fog lifted. I realized he didn't love me. He loved the idea of owning me. He had spent 2 years carefully dismantling my life so that I would have nowhere else to stand but under his shadow. "I'd rather be alone and crazy than spend one more second in this room with you." I didn't wait for him to respond. I shoved past him with a strength I didn't know I had. I heard him stumble, heard him shout my name, that velvet voice finally cracking into a scream. But I didn't look back. I grabbed my coat, ran out the front door, and didn't stop until the cold night air hit my lungs. I've been staying at a motel for 3 days. Every time a car door slams in the parking lot, I jump. I still haven't unpacked my bag. Part of me is terrified that if I settle in, he'll find me. Another part of me is waiting to wake up from a nightmare that started 2 years ago. People ask me, "How did you stay? How did you not see a secret room as a warning?" Here is the truth. I didn't see a secret room. I saw a man who wanted to protect me. I didn't see gaslighting. I saw concern for my mental health. Psychology calls this cognitive dissonance. Your brain can't handle the fact that the person who kisses you goodnight is the same person who is destroying your reality. So you choose the version that hurts less. You choose to believe you are the problem, because if you are the problem, you can fix it. If he is the problem, your whole world falls apart. Red flags don't always look like fire. Sometimes they look like a warm blanket that is slowly being pulled over your head until you can't breathe. I left with nothing but my phone and the clothes on my back. He's been calling. He's been leaving voicemails, crying, pleading, telling me he's getting help, telling me he burnt everything in that room. He says he did it all because he was scared of losing me. And that's the hardest part of the trauma. Even now, after everything I saw, a small broken part of me wants to believe him. That's how deep the rot goes. It makes you crave the very person who poisoned you. But I'm looking at the key I still have in my pocket, the heavy iron key. It's a reminder that the secret room wasn't a mistake, it was a choice. Every lie was a choice. Every photo taken in secret was a choice. I'm finally starting to see the sun again, but the fog is slow to clear. I have to learn to trust my own eyes again. I have to learn that love shouldn't feel like a locked door. The question for the comments. I'm still getting messages from his family saying I'm overreacting to a privacy issue and that he's heartbroken. It's making me doubt myself all over again. Was I wrong to leave without giving him a chance to explain, or was my life truly in danger? Should I have listened to his reasoning, or did I do the right thing by running? Let me know what you think. I really need to know if I'm finally seeing clearly, or if I'm still lost in the fog.